So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Amber Searles, and I am a curriculum and instructional designer here at CRS. And I and I came up with this Lift Every Voice webinar because I think that it is important for teachers to hear the voices of students. No, these students aren't in your classroom, but these students, I'm sure you can hear your students in these, you will be able to hear your students in these voices. And joining me today, well, I'm from South Carolina. I forgot to say that. I'm from South Carolina. Let me know if you're from the South in the chat box. And also, I am going to allow Jane to introduce herself because she will quietly disappear in a moment. So we'll let Jane introduce herself as others are joining.
Thanks, Amber. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have everyone here tonight. My name is Jane Kofi. I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at the Center for Responsive Schools. I am joining you from my home in Richmond, Virginia, and it's exciting to be able to have so many educators with us this evening. I'm going to explain a little bit about what my role is going to be during this webinar, but also the structure of this webinar as well. You probably already noticed that you can see the panelists as well as Amber and myself, but you can't see one another. That's the way that format works. You'll also notice that there isn't a feature to show audio or to have video, and that's also part of this particular format. So the way that this works is you'll get to hear from the panelists as well as Amber. And then if you are hearing something that resonates with you, that you're agreeing with, we invite you to use the chat box feature to share those thoughts with us. If you have specific questions, if something you're hearing during the webinar or just something that came to mind, you're going to use the Q&A feature, and those will go to the panelists as well as myself. Some of those I will answer right away for you, and some of those will be able to pose towards the end, and sometimes if it's relevant at that very moment, those questions will be brought up during the webinar. Otherwise, I'm going to mute myself and I'll disappear so that I can take care of some of the things on the back end while you're enjoying this webinar.
Thank you, Jane, for introducing yourself. And now we are going to meet the panelists. Again, I will be the facilitator, but these panelists, Elizabeth or Ellie, you can call her Ellie, and Stephanie, they will be the main people that you will be hearing from today. One of the main people that you will be hearing from today. So first we'll hear from Stephanie, and then we will hear from Ellie.
Hi, friends. My name is Stephanie Griffin. I've taught for 10 years, 8 which has been at Roosevelt Magnet. And I have gone through both responsive classroom trainings. There's the basic one, the first one, and then the second one is an advanced training. And I'm really excited to be here to deepen everyone's understanding and to hear what you guys have to say in the chat about responsive classroom, and maybe I can learn some things from you and have a great community.
All right, thanks for sharing, Stephanie. All right, Ellie.
Hi, everyone. I am Ellie Zatorsky. I am a second-year teacher, and all of which has been here at Roosevelt Magnet. I have always been super into responsive classroom. I did a lot of coursework in it before I even became a teacher in college and another program that I was in. So I'm really excited that I get to actually implement it in my classroom now, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys.
All right, thank you so much for the introductions. So now we are going to focus on the PowerPoint, this PowerPoint presentation. Stephanie and Ellie, can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. So if you guys can see the PowerPoint presentation, I'm very hopeful that the participants can as well. And also to answer any questions, You may see one person at a time as we are talking, and that is completely fine. We want the focus to be on them. So now that we've heard from the panelists, before you hear from the students, let me introduce you to Lift Every Voice. Not only do we have students, but you will get to hear the audio of students telling us, all of us, what lifting every voice means to them. For us teachers, it can mean something totally different, but for students, it can mean a plethora of things. So for our standpoint, Lift Every Voice as an educator is allowing students to be heard, allowing students to have a voice in the classroom. Don't be afraid to allow your students to have a voice in the classroom. And if you are familiar with responsive classroom practices, we want, as teachers, we want to become more as facilitators and allowing our classrooms to be student-centered. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. And the students that you are hearing, that you're going to be hearing from today, these are actually Stephanie's students and Ellie's students. So they are coming from Peoria, Illinois. And you can let us know what school you're coming from, Stephanie or Ellie, and kind of give us some background about your students before we hear them.
All right. So our students are, I believe, 7th and 8th grade. We might have a 6th grader in there, but we're at Peoria Public Schools at Roosevelt Magnet. It's a fine arts school. Our students get more exposure to fine arts than other schools in the district. And we are a Title I school. And Ellie, do you have anything to add about Roosevelt?
I was thinking of something, and then as soon as you started talking, I lost it.
And it is all right. When you think about it, you most certainly can jump back in. So we've heard from you all. The most important people we want to hear from are the students. So let's introduce the students.
My name is Josiah, and I'm in 8th grade. The thing I like about school is gym, because we get to do more stuff and like run around and stuff and more freedom.
My name is Samaya. I'm in 8th grade, and what interests me most in school is probably most likely ELA. I like writing a lot. So in ELA, sometimes we do a lot of writing or we do a lot of reading. But when we do the writing, I like the writing. So when we do like tests and stuff, if we get good grades, she send them to our parents, let our parents know that we passed and stuff like that. So I'll be feeling like, all right, I got it.
My name is Keegan. I'm in 7th grade, and the thing that interests me most is in school is lunch because I get to talk to my friends.
My name is Jakayla Brown. I'm in the 7th grade. The interesting thing that I found in school is math, because math is easy.
My name is Cheyenne Gaines. I'm in 7th grade. The thing that interests me most in school is science, because it's just the thing that I like. I'm interested in things out the galaxy and the galaxies.
My name is Kenyon. I'm in 7th grade. The subject that interests me most in school is art. And I like to draw because it helps me embrace myself.
My name is Jakar Brown. I am in the 7th grade. And the subject that interests me most is art, because I can express myself and it calmed me down.
My name is Liv. I'm in 7th grade. The subject that interests me the most is band, because I like the clarinet and I like how my teacher helps me when I'm all down, and like how if I make a mistake, she's gonna obviously help me and stuff.
All right. So you all just heard from the students. They just introduced themselves. So what we did in this setting, we had a group of questions for our students. So I am going to present the question that we presented to the students. You will get to hear their question, their answer, and also their reactions to the answer. And what our panelists will do today, they will speak into those answers that the students presented and how they support their students when they hear these kind of things from their students. So, with further ado, the first question that we asked students, we wanted to know from the students, what does having a voice in your school and community mean to you? So you will hear one student at a time answer, but after each student has spoken, you will hear from Stephanie or either Ellie or both of how you can foster your students based on the response that they just gave us. All right. So here, oh, I see, yay, band kids. Yep, ELA, yes. So let's hear the first one. So the first question that we presented to the students, what does having a voice in your school and community mean to you? So here is the audio to hear that.
Well, to me, I think it means like, I just feel like everybody should be heard, even if they don't go with our opinions.
All right. Stephanie or either Ellie, do you have anything to speak into that?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about this one. So definitely in my classroom, I try to show my students that their opinion matters. The biggest reason for me is that it shows them my classroom is a safe space for them to express themselves, especially with being a choir teacher, that's super important. I do a lot of things where I let the students like share for like 30 seconds a piece or 45 seconds if they need a little more, about how their weekend was or what kind of things they're interested in, just to show them that I care.
All right, thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, going on top of that, when students feel like they have a say, especially in the classroom guidelines, they feel that, when you are enforcing those guidelines, that, okay, we all agreed on this, you're right, I need to follow these guidelines. And I use the responsive classroom guidelines. 1, take care of yourself, act in a kind, respectful way, keep our space clean, welcoming, and easy to move in, be willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we talk about each one, and they're like, take care of yourself. That's a guideline? Yes, because I care about you. If you are cold, then maybe let's go to your locker and get a sweatshirt, or I have a community sweatshirt in non-COVID times. Or, if their basic needs aren't met, are they gonna learn? And right from the get-go, they're like, oh, this teacher cares about me. And then they're like, oh, maybe I feel safer here and I can learn. And I'm a band teacher, I forgot to mention that. But when kids come into 5th grade, it's like they're all learning from like square one. They're all squeaking and making horrible sounds together. So if they don't feel safe, we're not going to be successful in 5th grade band. Yeah.
All right. So we asked thank you for sharing. So we asked another student, what does having a voice in the school and the community means to them? And here is what they had to say.
It's like giving you actions or giving you a responsibility to do something.
All right. Who would like to expand on that one?
I really like what this student had to say because it made me really think about students having responsibility in the classroom just makes the learning more personal, which then just makes engagement easier. So when students get to choose like what kinds of activities are we going to do today, obviously from a list I made, I'm not going to let them like run around the room, but when they get to choose what we do or what order we do it in, they're a lot more likely to be like, okay, I'll do that thing I didn't really want to do because you let me do it last, yeah, just letting them be in charge helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. And students, believe it or not, some students want that responsibility. And it's up to us to be comfortable and to set up clear expectations to hand the students those responsibilities because they want to. Our students really want to. And if you notice, our students really want to please us as educators. But it's not all about pleasing us as educators. We want to put it in a learning form. Remember, we want our students to be successful not only in school, but out of school as well. And we're teachers and we all have a commitment to do that. All right. So here is another response from a student speaking into what does student voice and choice mean to them.
Student voice in school. What it means to me is basically you're in control of what you're doing in the classroom.
All right. Who would like to support that?
How many times, even as teachers, that we have all of these expectations to meet for our administrators or our districts that we're like, oh, why do I have to do this? It feels like busy work. Well, our kids feel the same way when we just hand them assignment after assignment after assignment. We're like, why do I have to do this? But if we give them a format of, say, we're going to write about this topic, but say it's a history class, but you can either make a PowerPoint about this topic or you can write an essay, all of a sudden like, oh, okay, I can do a PowerPoint, but I don't feel as strong with an essay, and vice versa. The students get more buy-in and they feel more comfortable with the assignment, and you're still grading them on the exact same knowledge. It's just two different formats.
Thank you, Stephanie. Ellie, would you like to add?
I don't really have much to say except for exactly what Stephanie was going to say. I like to give students that kind of choice so that they're working towards their strengths. Because in choir, I don't care if they can write a paper. I care if they can sing. So if whatever I'm assessing can be assessed in different ways, there's no reason why I shouldn't just give them two different options.
All right. Thank you. So next we have another student. Same exact question. What does having a voice in your school and community mean to you?
Student voice is important, I feel, because kids should be able to state their opinion without having to argue with teachers. And giving the student choices can help with social activities with friends and other things.
All right. How do you support your students?
So I heard, so I don't have to argue with my teacher. And that goes into student behavior. And when we get into those power struggles, kids just want to be heard. And I think it was like year 3 teaching at Roosevelt that it kind of clicked with me that if a student is angry and they're going to talk at me or yell at me or whatever it is because something happened, it has nothing to do with me. It could be something happened at home. It could be something that happened before my class. But me getting into that power struggle with them isn't going to help the situation. It's going to make it worse. So that's when our teacher language comes in. I hear you. This is what I hear. And I will rephrase what they're saying. And right there, it diffuses the situation 90% of the time. And if it doesn't, then hey, how about we take some time in our safe seat? And they go to the safe seat. And if not, then hey, let's go to a buddy room, reset. When you're ready to learn, come back in. And between those options, it diffuses 98% of any situation I see in my classroom. That 2%, unfortunately, we might have to remove the student and they need more support from administrators or counselors. But just stopping and listening to them, because they're not yelling at me. They're just yelling because no one is hearing them. So that's what I heard from that comment.
All right, thank you. So right here, we're going to pause right here. And what I would like for you all to do in the chat, as educators, when you heard the responses from students, what does having a voice in your school and community mean to you? And you heard the responses from the educators. Share an aha that you just heard from this last session Q&A from students. In the chat box, share an aha that you noticed. Like, yep, I didn't realize this, but this is an aha moment for me. And I would like for you to place it in the chat. So we have great. So feeling safe and confident to speak to your concerns, your feelings, student choice prevents disruptive behavior. And that is true. Going back to what Stephanie told us, and this is if you get the opportunity to experience the advanced course, the advanced middle school course, and also in the elementary course. Elementary, you have academic choice, and in middle school, you have student voice and choice. Students aren't acting out because they don't want to do the work. They are acting out because they want to be heard. Sometimes they know the knowledge, but they don't know how to put it in the way that we are asking them to present it. And I see a lot of connections with teacher collaboration in the text box. I see a lot of things. It's just most important, they want to be heard. That's where have you, Stephanie or Ellie, have you ever experienced, if you just listened to your student, that would have de-escalated things tremendously?
Yes, my first few years of teaching. I'm sorry, Ellie. My first few years of teaching. Oh my gosh. If I would have just listened to them and said, I hear you, what I hear you saying, or I noticed that when you came into the room, you looked angry and your fists were clenched. Is there something I can do to make you feel better? I probably would have had 50 less referrals. Oh, those first 2 years. Ooh, I wish Responsive Classroom was there for me.
Now we are.
I guess I'm lucky for that because I do have Responsive Classroom in my first 2 years. But actually, this morning I had a situation just like that. One of my students who tends to be a behavior issue, disrespect, those kinds of things. She came in and she was really upset about something. I have no idea what, but she was really upset. And I pulled her aside and I just let her know, like, hey, I know you're having a tough day today. I am willing to work with you on that. I just need you to try your best not to disrupt other kids. Okay. So I told her exactly what I needed her to do. I broke it down, made it simpler. So the expectations were a little bit lower and she knew I understood. And then for the rest of class, like, that was probably the best I'd ever seen her, even though she came in so upset.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes we as adults, with the hustle and bustle of everything, of our responsibilities, we want to go in with the student. Not the best choice. Not the best choice. We want to always keep our professionalism, keep our poise, and, just sometimes they just want to listen. And coming up shortly, you will hear some of those things from our students. So the next question that was presented to our students was, do teachers clearly listen to topics that are important to you? Why or why not? How does that make you feel? So let's listen to our students as they answer that question. And Stephanie, Ellie, or Ellie, or both, get ready.
Yeah, I feel like they do, because some of them makes changes.
All right.
All right, this was one of my students, and I'm hoping she was talking about me because I try to. But it's really important because it goes along with letting the students know they're heard. We can listen to them, but if we ultimately forget about it the next day, they're going to be like, oh, wait, okay, they listened to me, but nothing changed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and this made me think about, Allie, we talked about this earlier in the year. Most of our students, our 8th grade students, come directly from PE. And I was getting so upset with them because they weren't meeting that 3-minute get ready timer. And I was like, what is going on? And they're getting mad at me because they're tired and I'm getting mad at them. So we had a class meeting. We sat down and I was like, all right, we've known each other for a while. What's going on? And they're like, we have PE and we're thirsty and we're tired and band takes a lot of air and we don't have any right now. And I was like, well, okay. So all of the teenagerness is coming out at me. And I was like, okay. So now I don't start the timer until everyone is in the room. And if they need to get a drink, they can get a drink because the water fountain in the gym is not a good water fountain. And I have a good one by my room. And that solved that. And they felt heard and seen. And I was like, okay, I can stop pulling my hair out.
I actually had to, oh, do you mind if I share a little more?
Oh, go ahead,
okay, cool.
please.
I actually had to do the same exact thing. That student who just shared, she was in that class of 8th graders. And I did the same thing. I had a meeting and they're like, can we just have 10 minutes of free time? I'm like, nope, that's not happening. So same deal. I set my timer a little bit longer actually. And so then I said, I don't mind you coming in here and talking when you first get here, but you need to have this, this, and this done every day by the time this timer goes off. And since then, it's been pretty great.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now we're going to listen to another student. Again, focusing on the question, do teachers clearly listen to topics that are important to you? Why or why not? And how does that make you feel?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes no. Because sometimes you get them teachers that like want to listen to you and want to know like what's wrong and stuff like that. Then you get some of them teachers that really just don't care.
This one is a good one to speak into. Are we, as before Stephanie and Ellie respond, think about it. Are we that teacher that seem like that doesn't care about our students? Let's self-examine. Let's do a self-examination. Stephanie and Ellie, let us know about that response. How do you talk into that response for us?
Allie, do you want to go first? I keep going first.
Yeah, I could go first. Well, I definitely think that I respond to students' needs and what they express, but this one made me really think, do the students see that I'm responding? Or do they just think I'm moving past it and forgetting? So it's just made me really think, like, when a student tells me like, hey, I'm just really tired today, I can't do anything. Am I actually giving them the space to be human? Or am I pushing them to keep doing the work, meet these high expectations every single day? Like if it's a student who's normally, on the ball and doing everything and they come in and they're just not feeling it that day, then I will give them a little bit more leeway because they do the work. I just want students to know that they can share those things with me and know that they're good, they're safe in my room,
Yes, I lost my train of thought, but now I remember. So the student said some teachers don't care, and I don't think that's true. I think the perception is that the teacher doesn't care because the teacher is more worried about getting through the curriculum and the content than maybe what the student ate for breakfast. But perception is our student's reality. And what I do, and I've actually learned this from Responsive Classroom, I believe this was from the first training, was that I look around the room and I try to make sure I can think of one fact or one interest each student has. And if I can't think of something, then after class or before class or in the hallway, I'll have a conversation like, hey, what are you into? And then I remember one student, very, very quiet, and she just went on and on and on about how she wants to play piano and she wants to be a singer. Like 3 weeks later, I was like, hey, how's piano going? And she was like, what? You remembered that? She's like, how do you know that? Jedi mind tricks. So she started talking to me. I was like, oh my goodness, the student talks. So that's a great exercise for yourself. Look around the room and try to think of an interesting fact about each student. And if you can't, figure that interesting fact out.
Great advice, Stephanie. Great advice. All right, so now we have another student. Same question. Do teachers clearly listen to topics that are important to you? Why or why not? And how does that make you feel?
Well, to me, it makes me know that it's not the topic that we're supposed to be talking about in that specific time, but they listening to us and they know what we gotta say.
All right. It sounds like this student knows. How would you like to respond to that, Stephanie or Ellie?
The number of times that students interrupt my class to be like, hey, you want to know what I did this weekend? And it's like, guys, now is not the time. We are singing. We're in choir. And it's just like, if it were one kid, one time, it'd be fine. But everyone's trying to do it. So I try to tell the students, instead of just not now, I'll say like, remind me in 5 minutes or remind me at the end of class. I'd love to hear it. I give them that like window of time where I will listen to them so they don't think I'm just brushing them off.
Yes, Margaret in the chat said apologizing to students is critical, and that is so true. Sometimes you, after like a day, like I handled that wrong. I will set some time aside in the hallway. It's like, hey, the other day we had an issue and I handled that wrong and I apologize. Next time I will try to listen to you more, or, if I'm feeling too upset to handle a situation, then either I will say, hey, can you take some time in a buddy room and we can revisit this situation? Or I will go to the safe space, and I model that for my students, that the safe space in my room is not just for students and not just for students who aren't focusing. The safe space is for anyone that needs just a moment to recollect yourself. And we usually, one of the first days of class, I model exactly how to use the safe space, and then students will model it, and we have discussions about it. And throughout the year, I will just stop class and say, so-and-so, model how we use the safe space, just so students remember that it's there for them and it's not a punishment.
Absolutely. And I think what we all need to understand as adults is we are all human. We all make mistakes. And just like you said, Stephanie, we all make mistakes. And when students see that you are modeling apologizing, you are modeling ownership that you were wrong, you will get more respect from that student. Because that's what when students know that we're human, that makes them feel, okay, I feel so comfortable with talking to Miss Zatorsky or Miss Griffin, because they do understand. Sometimes I feel like we get we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle, and sometimes want to be that tough teacher. But remember, a responsive classroom teacher is calm. They always keep their poise, and also they're encouraging. They're acknowledging things with the students, and it is okay. Before we get off on a tangent, we have another student that wanted to speak into, do teachers clearly listen to topics that you want to discuss? And here is the student.
How it would make me feel like someone else feel if when I was talking about a topic that I like to a teacher, and they said like it's not important or it's not the right time, it would kind of make me feel like the thing that I like the topic, like it's unimportant to he or she.
All right. Who would like to speak into that?
This is one that really got me because I really like sometimes I do tend to, if I'm flustered or just having a rough, like my brain is a million places, I do sometimes tell students like now's not the right time. And when that student said that, I was like, oh, I think I do that. But I don't know if the rest of you guys saw, but Tiffany in the chat mentioned that she has her students write on a post-it and give it to her later if they want to share something, but now is not the right time. And I love that idea. I'm definitely using it because I'm sure the students forget if I say 5 minutes or end of class. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Tiffany.
Yes, thank you. So right now we're going to pause, and I want our participants in the chat. I want you to give us some strategies that you use in order to let students know that you clearly listen to them. So what are some things? We heard Tiffany in the chat. She used a Post-it note. What are some other things? Someone said send an email or write it on our listening log. What are some other things that you can do? Do you have any strategies to share, Stephanie or Ellie, that they can do if they can't talk in the moment, but wanting to let your students know, I do hear you, so that they don't feel like they're unimportant?
Yeah, I always say, catch me at lunch because we have lunch duty, or we use MS Teams, and the kids are usually on MS Teams in their classrooms, and they'll chat in our channel to me. But I always let them know, like, hey, I really want to hear what you're saying, but right now we need to focus on this because we have all these performances. And they're usually pretty good about it. And sometimes they're like, oh, I really need to talk. And I was like, okay, let's take a moment, and I'll give a few minutes to listen to them privately.
All right.
And there have been a couple of times where I'm like, if like every student is trying to tell me something, not every, but a lot of them, then I'll be like, okay, it seems like we are a little unfocused. So then I'll take the time to either give each student some time to talk, or I'll do some sort of brain break to refocus them. Because then it's sometimes just more of a focus issue. Like our students' brains are not made to focus for 40 some minutes, however long our classes are. So they just need a break sometimes. And sometimes it comes out in just words.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of ideas in the chat. Some teachers use parking lots. Some teachers do a lunch bunch. Some teachers allot 20 minutes. They do a turn and talk. They have a share session. All of these are great ideas. And I want to commend you all that are in the chat. You are doing the first thing to student voice and choice. When you are opening up these avenues, not student voice and choice, but student voice, when you open up this avenue to allow your students to speak and allot a time, you're already halfway there. So yeah. So continue if you feel as if you don't have the time, or just use some of these strategies that your colleagues are giving you so that you can connect with your students so that they can have a voice in the classroom community. Because sometimes you may give students a voice, but this one quiet student, they want to say something, but you have all these other students that will speak up for themselves. What will you do? What can you do for those students that are soft-spoken? And these are some things that you all are brainstorming in this chat. All right. So now moving on, let's finish our student voices. So now We ask the question, do you feel comfortable when you need to ask for clarification about an assignment or a lesson? And the reason why this question came about, some students will just sit there. You can tell them, all right, I need you guys to turn to page 4 in your resource books, and I want you to do problems 1 through 4. And you have the students sitting there. Sometimes it's not because they don't want to do the work. Sometimes it's just they just don't understand and they need extra one-on-one clarification, but they're scared to voice it. And you will hear some resonating things that these students said about this response. So here we go.
Sometimes if I'm asking one of my teachers for help and they come over and help me individually, I understand it more. So I just feel like me using my voice to get me farther.
All right. How would you like to speak into that, Stephanie or Ellie?
I'm really glad that this student feels that way, that she knows using her voice gets her farther, because that's what I want to teach my kids. I actually did an activism unit with my kids when we were virtual, and I had them make a playlist and learn how to put ideas together to get a point across. And I don't remember if she was in that class that did it, but like, that's what I want my kids to know, is that using their voice is their most powerful tool. They just have to know the right way to use it.
Absolutely. All right. So here is another student that's speaking into the same exact question.
To me, I feel like it's normal because if we've been playing for a long time and we know the note, we shouldn't have to be able to ask. We should at least try before we ask. And I feel like it would be comfortable for us or anyone to ask for help because everybody's not perfect.
All right.
So this is my student, and I was like, yes, because I've been trying to get them to try on their own first, because my students are so quick to just help me. But I mean, when we're in band, we have 8 different parts going on at once. So my rule of thumb is try first on your own, ask your neighbor next to you, and then come to me. And when they do that, they still feel comfortable coming to me. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do for a few years. So it makes me happy to hear that.
Absolutely. All right. Here's another student voice speaking into that.
I guess sometimes I don't feel comfortable answering a question just because we've been on the topic for so long, because then it kind of, when you ask the teacher the question, it would make you feel like, yeah, you don't like know what you're doing, even though you've been on the topic so long. Kind of make you feel like stupid sometimes when you do ask for like a clarification or a question.
Now, this one is a big one, is a huge eye opener, because we don't want it doesn't matter where we are in our lesson. We don't want any child to feel like they are stupid. And I'm just quoting what the child just said. Stephanie and Ellie, you want to speak into that?
Yeah, so in my classroom, as I'm sure most of you do, I have a zero tolerance policy for students to say bad, rude things about other kids, whether they're in the room or not. Zero tolerance. If you say it, I'm going to be talking with you privately. I'm going to be doing whatever needs done, depending on how bad it was, but I also make sure all of my students know that. So hopefully they feel safe. But just in case, if I ever notice that there's a class that's really quiet, no one's asking questions, I will cut time out of my class to make it so I can do like a private conversation with each student. Now, my classes are tiny right now because of COVID, so it works that way. I don't think it will work when I have full, like regular size classes eventually. but like I pull each kid aside and then they have the space to tell me, and no one knows if they ask me a question.
So here's an activity that I do because there are quiet students, is I will say, we've just gone over the instructions. What are some questions that might be helpful to your friends in the classroom? So they can ask you a question, and it's not them asking a question. This is a question my friend could ask. So it kind of gives them that layer that, see, I'm not dumb. I'm just helping you guys.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we're going to pause right here. And as we always do after each segment, what resonated with you? And please share in the chat box. What resonated with you about the responses of if they feel comfortable with asking clarification about an assignment? So in the chat box, put what resonated with you about hearing those student responses. And while we're waiting for the next round of chat, now we're going to go into the question of now. So now we've heard the topics. What are some topics? Are teachers listening to us about topics that we hear? Do we feel comfortable with asking our teachers questions? So now the question was posed, how can adults make you feel comfortable using your voice in classroom, school, or community? So during this segment, I would like for you all as educators that are attending, I want you to write down some responses that the students shared, because again, these are middle school students, and I'm sure if these students feel this way, your students may or may not feel this way, but it's always good to have these things in your teacher tool bag, I always say. So, how can adults make you feel comfortable using your voice in the classroom, school, or community?
When they actually listen. Because it could really be a student that don't know something and really asking for help or something. And if you're not listening, then how that student gonna know what they need to do?
All right, who would like to speak into that response? You can think about it, it's okay.
I lost my train of thought again.
Uh-oh.
I know. So making our students feel comfortable, things that we do as educators is I'm always making eye contact with them, but not the entire time, because some students find that aggressive, especially students with trauma. Mm-hmm. If they seem upset or we're having a confrontation, I'll sit at their level. Little things that they don't notice at all. I always tell the teachers that I mentor that our classroom management starts in the hallway. A lot of it is just talking to them in the hallway, getting to know them, because if the students feel like you don't care about them, then they don't care about your class. Or if, did they learn? A lot of students they want to please their teacher. So if they like their teacher, they're going to sit down and try, because they want that positive praise from their teacher. So that's one thing that I usually tell my mentees, is always talk to them in the hallway.
All right. So here is another response. Yes, building relationships, that is key. Building relationships, especially in the classroom. All right, here's another response to that.
Teachers need to listen to how their students feel, because I feel like some of them don't.
And I wonder why that particular student feel that some teachers don't.
Okay, so I could definitely see the situation happening where, and I think we have all seen this situation, where you see the tail end of a behavior. Say a student hits one student and then they turn around and hit the other student, and you see the student that got hit, that hits the student, and then you yell at that student. That's probably part of where maybe that comment is coming from. So before I react, I turn around and I'm just like, what's going on? So they can tell me. So I'm not accusing a student of, whatever they're doing. I'm making sure that I know the full situation first.
Absolutely. Ellie, did you want to speak into that one?
Sorry, I was taking a quick note because I liked what Stephanie said. What did the student say? Some teachers don't listen, right? That's what she was saying?
Right, absolutely, yep.
Okay. I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times now. Like, sometimes it's just the student perception that the teachers aren't listening. And so I think we as teachers just need to be more, not more obvious, more intentional about showing students we're listening. Like giving them the floor and making sure that they hear us saying, I'm listening, not just, what did you say? Like something more obvious, and giving them that kind of focus, not too much eye contact, like Stephanie said. But making sure that they know they are our focus for that time that they are talking. You're muted.
All right, I'm here. Bingo. My PowerPoint went down, you guys. I had to bring it back up. But that is important. And just due to time, I'm sure that we have so many recordings. But I know I want you all to listen to this last audio. And this last audio is focusing on how does having a voice in school motivate you. So let's listen to this student. And I think this student was spot on when she shared how the student voice motivate her. Let me mash play.
I feel like we need more breaks. Like some teachers like just don't give us breaks and stuff, and that's kind of like stressful. Cause I need breaks, like just staring and try to focus on the paper so much, it'll make me not want to do it anymore.
So sometimes our students, it's not that they don't want to do the break. We're teaching them, and then we have them do this work, and then we have them do this review, and then we don't give them any room to breathe. So how do you all speak into that?
I do plenty of brain breaks. I know I've mentioned that before, which right now, one of the kids' favorite is 13s. So if you guys don't know that one, look it up, because the kids will play it like the entire class period if I let them. It's weird. It's so simple, but they will. And I also just like make sure to, sometimes I trick them into learning, like I'll play a game that they don't think they're learning. Like there's a music one called Pass the Beat Around the Room, where they're still practicing a beat. They have to focus. There's music, but it's a game. So they're taking a break. So just figuring out what your class needs. Like you can give them a break, but can they handle moving to another space in the room, or does it need to be one seated? Can they handle a talking one, or does it need to be a quiet one? The cool thing about the Brain Breaks book, which I don't know if this is weird, but I'll show you guys which one I'm talking about. Don't know how old this is, but it's called Refocus and Recharge. There's like a little table in the front of it that will tell you like, this brain break will help with this kind of a class. This will help with this kind of a thing. So I recommend that book if you don't have it.
Great book.
Definitely that book. Is that my book actually? But anyway,
probably is.
yes, brain breaks. Also, just because I found out about it, Blookit. It's called Blookit.com. It's kind of like Kahoot, but they can do it individually. And it's like one game is a cafe where they have to answer questions to refill the food, and then they do orders. And then there's another game that's a tower defense where they answer questions to build towers, and they want to try to get as many points as they can. And the kids love it. They asked me if they could play it. We did it for a sub the other day. And it was note reading, and it's something I struggle with all the time. So when they're like, we need a break, if I put them on a stream and they play those games, we're still learning, but to them, it is a break. So look up blookit.com, Blooket.
Thank you for sharing those resources. And I want to thank Stephanie and Ellie for taking the time out of their day today to help lift every voice. So I hope that you all have taken some strategies from them. You've gotten encouragement out of listening to our students' voices. And thank you for coming. And also, if you want to bring, say, for instance, you've done the workshop before, or you haven't done the workshop, or you want to bring the Responsive Classroom workshop to your school, please reach out to our educational partnership department, and you can reach out to Duke, or you can reach out to Brooke, and they will be more than happy to help you with this. And remember, you have already taken the first step to allowing your student to have a voice. And I thank you, and I hope that all of you have a great night. And thank you so much.